Imagining a world without dance, it's so difficult because it's like, it has been and is so much of my life. While I'm dancing, nothing else in the world matters. And it really can shift my mood because it kind of transports me into really another world. Hi, I'm Alex Wong, and this is how art changed me. I would always kind of dance when I was younger, and I would bring my family into a room and give my dad a flashlight and say, spotlight me, and then I would dance something. I don't know what it was probably horrible. But they would always say do you want to dance? And I was like, no, dancing's only for girls. I kept on denying and not dancing until they eventually brought me to a local dance school, and they're like, if you don't want to dance after that, we won't ask you anymore, but just watch it. And so that was another big exposure thing to me. I saw other guys dancing in that little performance, and I think that really changed my whole outlook of it. When you're first generation and your parents have maybe struggled to come here or whatever, the first thing on their mind is making sure that you have a solid future, a roof over your head, you're able to feed yourself. And my parents really allowed us to be able to dream and kind of pursue our passions, which I think was really rare at the time and actually still really is now. They kind of just said the first most important thing is that you're happy and you're pursuing happiness, and whatever you do pursue, give it your best. I think at some point for every dancer, you're dancing, and then you're wondering well, is this real? Can this actually be a profession? And can I actually make it? And so at the time, I really didn't see that many Asians on TV. I didn't really see that kind of exposure. And I was like, this is really unrealistic for me to pursue. I didn't think there was Asians on Broadway. I'm what am I gonna be, an Asian in West Side Story? What is this? So I decided that I should probably pursue ballet as a career. I was in the concert dance world in ballet companies for about, I guess, 6 or 7 years before I sort of transitioned into what I call the commercial side of dance, which was what happened with So You Think You Can Dance. So that came around and I decided to kind of audition in a whim, and it reminded me of how much I missed doing those other forms of dance, because I grew up doing jazz and tap and all those things, and then I kind of left it a little bit behind when I started my professional career. And I really miss doing those things, and so that's kind of what put me back into that commercial side of dance. That was 2010, and I think the landscape had started to change, where I started to see more color on TV and more diversity on TV, and it felt okay, maybe I could make this transition, maybe there is more for me. So the item I brought with me are actually a pair of shoes. They're a little dusty because they've been under my bed, but they were my shoes that I wore for my hip hop piece on So You Think You Can Dance. This was a big turning point in my journey on the competition, but also in my career. And it was the most terrifying point as well. A lot of people remembered me from this hip hop dance. It was because I was a ballet dancer and I was very not experienced in doing hip hop. And it was a dance that kind of surprised everyone. It ended up winning an Emmy Award. It ended up winning, when they had a recap of their 10, 15 years of best dances on So You Think You Can Dance, people voted for their favorite dance that ever happened, and it also won that. And so really had a lot of significance in kind of a turning point in my career. It was also so special because I danced with Twitch, who now has passed away. And so it's just really great memories. It really changed my life because of that was such a big turning point. And I think a lot of people recognized me for that. I think that the hardships that I've endured are things that I needed to endure. And I think they're part of what makes me today. The hardest time in my career was when I got injured, my really big injuries. So when I was on So You Think You Can Dance, I snapped my Achilles tendon, and that required surgery to sew it back together. At the time, the surgeon was it's gonna be 1 year. So think of it as a 1 year recovery. You can't do much in that 1 year. There's gonna be physical therapy, you're gonna be slowly rehabbing and whatever. That was really difficult. And one of the things, I didn't have dance to help me cope. And I was pretty lost for the first few months. I didn't know what to do. And I actually just kind of pretended I wasn't a dancer. I think that was the easiest kind of escape for me, was just to be okay, let's forget about dance. for the moment. Let's just pretend it doesn't exist. In that time, I kind of started pursuing some other forms of arts. Like I got into acting classes. I really like honed in on like my singing skills and things that I also really enjoyed that I knew would help my career later on. A year and 3 days after my recovery, I snapped my other Achilles. And so it was like another kind of thing. But the second time around, I approached it a little differently. I remember 1 week out of surgery, I was already teaching dance at conventions to like thousands of kids. And so like being able to like share dance in that way also helped me kind of like get back up on my feet in the sense of like, okay, this time, the second time around, I'm not gonna let it stop me. I'm gonna like go and I'm gonna share what I can do. And funny enough, like the first time around when I had focused on my acting and my singing and stuff like that, I had done like an Aladdin audition for the Broadway, Disney's Aladdin, which I got, but I was going to return as an all-star, so I turned it down. But that second time around, after that second injury, Disney on Broadway called and was like, hey, we would love to have you in the original Broadway cast of Newsies. And so like that kind of setup of like me sort of pretending I wasn't a dancer and focusing on other sorts of things inevitably led to me having my Broadway debut, which was dancing, acting, and singing. Above all else, I always just strive for happiness. I allow my intuition to kind of like lead me on which way to go. Am I still striving towards happiness? Am I maintaining my happiness? Because like inevitably like that's like the most important thing to me, right? Like if I don't have my health, I don't have my happiness, like what do I have?